Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Better Business Place, the show that highlights or brings on experts to help business owners run a better business. So I have a question for you today. Do you feel that people are assets in your business, or do you look at them like, oh, God, Sally at front desk, she's just retired, or I've got to find someone new? And how do you know on how to hire the right people? Have you ever used a recruiter before? Well, my guest today is going to help us understand the recruitment process in the industry, and he's a leader in his field. I'm going to read out his particular bio. I'm very lucky to have him on the show today. Saul is the founder and CEO of GeckoRec Australia, who regularly vlogs and posts about the ins and outs about career development regarding the industry, professions, career stages, market, etc., while also delivering bite-sized practical content for employers and improve staff engagement. He's very, very passionate. I mean, Sal is a passion for people in general, and here's why he's helping people from all walks of life, right from people still at school to many other professional industries. He finds happiness through every single step, and they need to reach out, and he enjoys being a part of that. So please join me in welcoming Sal. Are you there, Sal?
Yes, Glenn, how are you? Good morning.
Mate, I'm fantastic. I'm really fantastic. Hopefully I did your bio justice. We've known one another for about probably going on about 14 years. But for those of the people who are watching this particular show who don't know you, who are you?
Well, as you mentioned, I'm the founder of GeckoRec. I'm a very passionate person when it comes to people. I love what I do, and I'm very I look forward to every day just helping as many people as I can, whether it be career professionals of all trades, all professions, all disciplines, and business owners, in making sure that they bring on board the best people they can find. Married to two teenage boys. I've got a Mexican and a New Yorker. One's very relaxed and takes life very easily. The other one's a bit more manic and a bit more in a rushed way about looking at going through life. So they both keep me quite busy, and I love my football and I love animals. So, but I love meeting people. I love helping people in particular, and I do as much as I can to help as many people as I can.
Out of curiosity, what football team do you support?
Liverpool FC over in the English Premier League, and the Wanderers.
It's been a while since we've heard a lot about the Wanderers, but yeah, it's good that you're passionate about that. And you enjoy, as you said, pets. What sort of pets?
Yeah, I love all animals, but I love dogs. I love cats. If I could have birds and donkeys and chickens and ducks, I'd have a whole bag of animals. But, I love my dogs.
So tell me, who are the people that you serve in business?
Well, when it comes to business owners in particular, I mean, I started the business off many years ago in construction, engineering, and mining, and then gradually over time moved across through changing the process and the model that I was using to recruit people for business owners for companies. And I started working with companies in all industries. So I went from engineering, construction through to financial services, manufacturing, transport, operations, and so forth. And professional services, another one, legal, accounting, those sort of areas as well. So it became quite broad. And the process that I started working through was very much about partnering up with business owners. So it was a journey that we were both going to go through. So I would understand their business, get to know who they were, understand what their vision was, understand their business on that day, where they were at, what their plans were, and how they viewed their current staff. If they had some staff, for example, if they were building from scratch, it didn't really matter. It was all about really working together and partnering up with that business owner. And that really, I felt, changed the way that I approached the recruitment process, because I really took a lot of ownership in terms of speaking on behalf of that client when sourcing people. So it became a big part of how I went about helping business owners recruit good people. Then, of course, I launched the career mentoring side of the business about 7 years ago now, and that keeps me very busy, running about 18 sessions a week now. I started off running about 4 to 5 every week. Now we're full up, running sessions on Saturdays as well. So, and this year's been one of those years, obviously, people being very much affected by COVID, losing their job, and really, I suppose, rethinking their careers. So it's been a real journey the career mentoring programs is something I'm very passionate about, because I love, as you mentioned, working with high school students, university students, all the way up to mature age professionals across any discipline.
So the industry itself, would it be right in saying that some business owners really struggle around this particular process because they can either do it, they either put a job on Seek and then do it all the work themselves,
Yeah.
or they go out and they hire a recruiter and then sort of going, well, what sort of value are you going to add to me and what are your fees, right? There's a bit of a, there'd be some pros and cons on why someone would use a recruiter, isn't there?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, most business owners are strapped for time, and a lot of them, go about doing it themselves. And many business owners do a great job. Others typically will turn around to a recruiter once they've tried and they haven't gotten the results they were looking for or expecting. And then they go into the recruitment process with a recruiter with not much thought put into that process, not much thought given to who they're going to work with. A lot of business owners still use multiple recruiters, thinking that the more recruiters they have coming back to them with resumes, the better. It really comes down to quality, not quantity anymore, as they say. And I think it's one of those things where I always encourage business owners, if you're going to work with any recruiter, no matter if you're a specialist recruiter in, say, engineering or in financial services, whatever industry it is, you really get a gauge for who they are. So qualify the recruiter as much as they would qualify candidates for you. Qualify them to see if they know what they're talking about, see if they've got a track record in your industry. What other companies do they work with? What results have they gotten? What sort of people do they look for? Can they give you a snapshot of their background? Where have they come from? Have they worked in the industry before, for example, and then gone into recruitment? So that tends to happen a lot as well. But I honestly get frustrated when business owners have such a negative attitude about the process, more so because it's something that they've been, obviously involved in or contributing to, because they don't do their homework. And I think it comes down to planning. A lot of business owners don't plan for growth through people. It's responsive, it's reactive. We need an engineer, we need an admin person, we need a customer service person by next Monday, and it's Thursday, Friday afternoon. It's never planned in advance where they know they're going to need good people in certain spots in the business.
I think sometimes those situations come up. Someone all of a sudden leaves and gives 2 weeks notice, or there can be situations where it is short, but you're right, it probably doesn't come down to planning. So, with all of that sort of going on, why do you do it?
I love it. I mean, I'm a sucker for punishment, you could say. I mean, to give you an idea, we're working through a role right now for a very senior operations role, and there's been 165 CVs that I've been going through in the last week. Very senior guys, guys on, quite a few $100,000 a year on salaries and so forth, and all the perks that come with it. Some very large operations that they're running, and I go through every one of them. Every person gets gets feedback, gets a response, and I love the interaction. I like finding out about people. I like helping them, even if they're not suitable for that position or our role at the time. So it really is about being able to give back on both sides. And there are a lot of candidates who need help, who are sending their resume out cold and not giving their CV any thought at all, and they don't realize the impact it's having when it arrives on the other side. So, and because I work with clients, with customers, with companies as their partner in the process, I don't represent them as my client. It's we are looking for an engineer. Our business is. So I'm really speaking on behalf of the company, and the business owner is very glad and sometimes very, very willing to say, look, by all means, represent us, and you're our guy. So, it comes down to really representing the company in such a way that the candidate knows who they're dealing with from the word go.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll come back to, I guess, this question a little bit later on. Surely it's just a matter of reading resumes and just picking the best candidate. I'm going to save that one because it doesn't sound as simple as that. But tell me, what's the biggest challenge you've got in your business right now, and how did you overcome it?
Look, I think for me, it was always a case of, getting through the clutter of running a business and then a recruitment business. And then, of course, incorporating the career mentoring into the business as well. So we have an office in Melbourne, for example, and obviously Melbourne being what's happened in the last 6 to 8 months, they haven't had a lot to do. They've kept busy doing other things, and obviously helping with the activities that we have up here in New South Wales. And for us, it's really been about managing the time and the process. A very good colleague of mine, who Anil Puri, many, many years ago, and I've known Neil for nearly close to 30 years, I think. He's big on time management. And that's something that I started initiating in my business, in my day-to-day activities years ago, was making sure I itemized and prioritized my activities day to day. And that includes even into the weekend, for example, making sure that I get done what I need to get done, because, typically Monday to Friday is quite precious. And I work long hours. I mean, it's my business. It's my interest. It's my passion. And yourself from our times many years ago when I used to talk about having 4 hours, 5 hours sleep a day, even less on many occasions, because I was always up preparing reports for clients and so on. So I think it's about time management, and that was a big obstacle for me, because it was just, I knew I was busy, but I was also busy chasing my tail for many years, until I realized that I couldn't keep doing that. I couldn't go on 3-4 hours sleep. As you get older, it catches up with you. And to be honest, something's got to give eventually. So being more organized was definitely something I had to overcome, because I was busy. I had a lot of clients that I was working with.
Working as a coach, I definitely see people say, I'm busy. My question to them is, are you profitable? Because it's very easy to, you can now understand what it's like being some of the businesses that you work with. They just seem to be putting out all these fires all the time. Yeah. And you know what? Let the fire burn. Go and start looking on where there are potential fires. And if you start using those areas, Stephen Covey calls it the 4 quadrants, 1, 2, 3, 4. What's important, non-important, and what's urgent, what's not urgent. And if you've got urgent and important, that's the fire, all right? And that's where everyone seems to operate. But the real key is to work on the important but not urgent, all right, which is box 2. And over time, that will help you. So by getting a recruiter in to manage that particular process, do you think that people write out, or do you help people write out a job description, or do they just convey that across to you and going, this is the role, Sal? Because I definitely got it wrong when I first gave you your first referral, thinking, oh, well, I'm just going to I'll ring you up and just sort of saying, this is what I need, and I need an accountant. And you said, hang on a click, Glenn, we don't work like that. Right? We might not be a good fit. And I went, what are you talking about? I just pigeonholed you all in the same area, right? And then it wasn't the case, was it?
No, it's not. It's one of those things where I think, when it comes down to employers going about and searching for staff themselves, I encourage them to do it. I say, by all means, I can help you in the initial stage of writing up a JD, or even putting together an ad. One of my, I still enjoy writing an ad, and in many cases clients say, look, I can't afford to go through you or anyone else for that matter. I'm just starting out. I'll say, look, let's put an ad together. Let's put an ad together. I'll help you put the ad together. You can post it yourself. I'll help you, initially screen, and then over to you. You can, if you need my help, by all means. And for me, it's just about, as I said before, helping and making sure that they know what they're getting themselves into. A lot of the time, it does come down to having simple things, fundamental things like job descriptions in your business, because, and it's such a simple thing to do. I always say to clients, look, business owners, get your staff to write their own job description. Get them to sit down, at least give you a draft of what they see their day-to-day job being. Because if they decide to leave tomorrow or get hit by a bus, you know what they were doing day to day. You know what their core essential responsibilities were. And if they move on to a more senior role, then you've got that covered. You don't have to scramble at the last minute saying, we don't have a JD, we don't know what this person's really going to do. So I always encourage business owners to involve their teams in putting together their own job descriptions, even putting together the ad that they want to post in looking for someone. Get your team members to put together their own ideas on what should go in the ad, and then work through it together. And then at least that way you've got a few people involved in the process, and more than likely it'll be a 9 out of 10, as opposed to something that they're going to put out thinking what they think they know that this person's going to do, and they're missing the mark, and they wonder why the hit rate or the responses coming through aren't exactly what they were after.
If you're listening to this show, either now, Philippe, please comment live, or if you watch it later on, please write replay. But that's a great tip there. From taking the responsibility from the owner or the manager, sort of saying, "Oh, I've got to do this," just sort of saying, "Hey, why don't you write out your job description?" That's
Yeah,
the 80-20 rule. You're getting where the candidates or the employees writing for a potential candidate. And then all of
yeah.
a sudden you have, if you've got a team of 40, you've got 40 job descriptions done like that. And everybody only had to work on it an hour or 2 hours.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's good
Yeah,
understanding.
it's also a big part of HR as well, having people's, files, so to speak, having, in their file, their respective job description so that you know exactly what their responsibilities are. And that role will change over time. So that you'll be adding more responsibilities or taking some away because they're now spending more time doing something else. So it's important that, if you want to call it documenting what your team members do, but then also being able to use that when you're actually looking for new staff. It just makes the job, posting an ad, qualifying candidates. If you want to do it yourself as a business owner, or get your HR department or your office manager to do it, they've got some resources they can go to. They're not just going in cold and scrambling, because it's not what it's not what they're specialised in. It's not what they're doing day to day. For me to look through 120 CVs when they're coming in, it's like I said, I enjoy it, and I get through quite a few in a day, right? So for me, I know what I'm looking for. I do it every day. That's what I'm a specialist in. Whereas an office manager or HR person who's got legislative issues to get through, human issues to get through, all of a sudden you're going to lump her with, or him with, an office, an accounts payable position that needs filling, or a sales rep, or a marketing person, and they're going, well, what do I know about marketing? What do I know about sales reps? What do they do? What are we looking for? So I think it's about being able to be more organized and really look at some of the fundamentals and involve your teams, bring them into the process.
Great. That's a great tip. So what are you doing right now to actually grow Gecko Australia?
Well, look, it's GeckoRec has been one of those things that I've been constantly networking in, and for me, to be honest, in the very beginning, I only launched my website probably about 4 or 5 years ago, because before that it was all referral based. It was your world. It was one of those things where clients would refer another client over, and they'd call up and say, look, so and so said you could help us out looking for staff, and so on. So for me, it was always about making sure that referral line of business was always strong and solid. And networking was a big part of that. And I still enjoy networking, although I haven't done as much as I used to do. I still network through LinkedIn. I network through various different, probably a bit more selective these days in terms of who I network, what groups I network within. But I love meeting people. I love connecting, people through yourself and other clients, other colleagues, even if it's for a catch up and they just want to get a bit of advice, or they want some tips, or they just love to know a bit about the process, or they want to find out more about me and our business and what we do and so on. That's great too. So obviously, networking is a big part of what we do. But social media is big as well. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, not so much on Facebook and Instagram as much as LinkedIn. And LinkedIn's been a really, really effective tool to spread the word. And I'm getting DMs every day I just finished a session this morning with a young guy in Brazil. I've had guys from India, another guy from the US in recent days as well. So doing Zoom sessions with people from overseas is so rewarding, and it's so much fun, because you're getting to meet people from all different cultures and backgrounds, and their needs are different to the guys here in Australia. So
I think that story you told me where we went out for lunch, we caught up in Parramatta, went to a Thai restaurant, and just over the course of just chatting and having a little bit of food, getting to know one another, I learned that, Sal, when he was working for someone, then decided to go out on his own. One of his previous relationships just sort of said, yeah, no worries, Sal, I'll give you a break, and just gave him, was it about 5 positions that he needed filling?
Yeah, it was a construction client that I was working with. Yeah, and he gave me, I told him what I was planning on doing, and he said, look, 100%, I'll back you. We've got 5 positions right now. They're all yours. But he said to me one simple little bit of advice. He said, this is going to be your business, your livelihood, what you want to do, your passion. Obviously, you love what you do. He said to me, if I ever see you turning up in $2,000 suits and in a 5 Series BMW or a Porsche, he said, you'll receive no more work from us. We want you to focus. So yeah, it's a great bit of advice.
But that's your whole, the fee there would have been your bankroll for the whole year. So it really established you and allowed you to set up the business.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, from that amount of work, it was just a matter of it just kept rolling over. New clients go on board, and that's when we started obviously spreading out and being able to work with clients in different areas, different industries, and that was fantastic because the word travels fast. And I always said that if I was going to do it, I was going to do it right. and even in the last couple of years, I've been very selective about who I work with, what sort of businesses I want to partner up with through that process of looking for staff and so forth. And even career mentoring. I mean, I've run career mentoring programs over 6 or 12 months for certain clients down in Victoria through, with their staff, taking them through the career path, making sure there's a career for them in that business. And if there's not, well, then we help them find, their dream role or career elsewhere. And that's something that I've really enjoyed doing, because it's another side to the business I get to look into. So it really is about being able to give back and generate as much interest in this whole area, because I think people just give it it's like a second thought, while we need another person in the accounts area or another person in sales, and just get another body in and we'll see what happens, and it's.
Well, speaking of that, you sort of said, I asked earlier off screen, what is your favorite quote and why? Do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've got a few. I mean, one of them in particular is one that I mentioned to you before, which was I think it's regarded as the shortest poem in history. It was by Muhammad Ali, which is very simple and just said you, me, we, and it was his outlook on the human race. He obviously was a guy that was very much about human rights and making sure that there was no biasness or no racism and so forth, even back in the days when he was first starting out. But it traveled through. And I remember when I first read that quote many years ago now, and I'm a big fan of Muhammad Ali, I love Muhammad Ali, but I thought, that's so adaptable to business today. It's about business owners looking at that quote and saying, well, yeah, this is my business, but it's also about us. It's about us as a group of people coming in every day and doing what we do, and why do we do it? And the whole Simon Sinek thing coming out with why businesses have what's a business's why, what's a person's why. And I even use that in my career program. So that quote for me, you, me, we, really sums up what business should be all about. And that's about an inclusive approach with everyone in the business moving forward in one direction at the same momentum, and no one being left behind, And I think that's so important, because business owners always think that they're the face of the business. Well, without your people, you're not going too far. So that's one that rings out.
So with that, when you've got a business or you've got a potential client that comes and says, hey, listen, we need, these particular roles filled, come and have a bit of a chat to us. And you can see that they've got a high retention, right? Can you really work with a business like that? Because, I mean, obviously they don't seem to be valuing their people if they're going through like high churn.
Yeah. Well, it's a mindset. I mean, that's where it's got to come down to, really doing the groundwork with that business owner first. And that's where they need to have patience, and they need to still, as I say, stay ambitious about the process and focus on what the goal is, and that is to bring a new person on board. But there's more to it than just that. If you're turning over staff, I mean, I've had clients who I've started working with that for many years were turning over 3, 6, 7 people a year. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you've got 15, 20 staff, that's a lot.
Okay.
Even if you've got 100 people, that's a lot of people that you're losing every year, just for the sake of, for what reason you don't know, or they're not happy, or they've never really belonged here. They never really liked their job. They never seem motivated. And I think that plays a big part in the process that we go through together, because they need to understand that we need to send the right message out. And it's about employers being seen as an employer of choice. It's about employers being seen as a place that people want to go and work in, a company that they want to work for, an employer that they want to report into, and people that they want to work with. And I think it's all about that. And I think it's important that employers and candidates realize that it is a two-way street. It's when candidates go to an interview, I always say to candidates, this is about you having a look and seeing if this company is the company you want to work for, if these people you're going to meet are people you want to work with and for. And it's the same thing for employers. But employers have this perception or this understanding that it's all about us. We're the employer. They need to be grateful that they're coming in for an interview. Not so much. Even though today it's a bit of an employer's market right now because of obviously COVID and what's happened in the last 12 months. But I think it's there's still a shift, and I encourage all candidates to be as selective as they can. But obviously everyone's situation is different. But be selective. Don't just jump in and go, oh my God, what a mess. What have I walked into? So it's really about employees making sure they have a complete understanding of how important it is to have a real positive and an attractive front, and really find out why they're in business, and who works for them and why, and use that as part of the overall recruitment process.
Okay. All right. Well, so let's jump into it. So how do you help people bring on the right people?
Well, again, it goes back to planning. I mean, we go through the whole process for them. Obviously, when we do a full service, which is our in-house model, for example, and that's when we do everything for them. We also have other services as well, but typically we will walk them through the process so they have an understanding. Typically, this morning I sent out half a dozen updates to companies and business owners who I'm working with at the moment to give them a weekly update of where we're at. And whatever I say in that message is exactly what's going to happen next, whether it's CVs coming or whether it's interviews about to start or whatever it might be. So we definitely partner up in such a way that they're involved in the process, but it's not to the point where it's taking up their time. The whole point of having me come on board or one of our team members come on board to help out in the process is that they're going to be able to focus on their business and do the other things, and we'll take care of this. But I still feel that they need to know where we're at and what we're up to, and if there are issues or successes along the way that we find someone that's a real standout, for example, and it might not even be for that role, it might be for something else in their business, then they will hear about it, they will know about it. So, and again, that goes back to what I said earlier about partnering up and understanding their business, because if we see someone else that comes through the influx of CVs who might be suitable in another part of their business, because of their background, whatever, then we obviously make that person known to them. But it's really about being, really including the business owner in the process. And again, I also spend time with their employees. If it's a new client, I'll spend time with their employees to find out a bit more about the business from their perspective. What's good about work? What do you like about it?
When you go to another business, how much time would you spend with the owner or general manager to get to understand what the culture is and what they're really looking for? Because it sounds to me like you are going to be more their recruitment and HR person, for quite some time, not just this position, finding them a role.
Yeah, look, and it comes down to that. I think a lot of the time, a lot of candidates will. I've had candidates in the past where they've obviously gone through me for a position. They're successful and they start, and some of them actually said, what time does Saul come in? Where's Saul's office? Where's his desk? I want to just go, say hello and say thanks. It's only then they realise that I don't actually work in the company.
Right. Okay.
I'm in house with them, but that's the reason why I do that, because it's all about presenting a united front to try and find the best people for that business. And it's not about qualifications or technical ability. It's about profile. It's about finding people that are going to fit into the business as well, that have a lot of synergy between what the business is after and what they're looking for. So really, it's about spending the valuable time with the owner, with the staff, and within the business to know what it is that makes them tick. About their industry, about their clients, about the way they do business, about their processes, and if in fact they have simple things like job descriptions and information on the recruiting process from an internal point of view, how they've gone about it before, what results they've had, and so forth. And that all comes together for me to be able to put a plan of attack together for them. And that's when we sit down and go through it and say, right, this is the way we're going to approach it. And it's usually on several fronts. It could be placing an ad, for example, on Seek or Indeed, whatever it might be, but also working through our network on LinkedIn, our database network as well, our network of colleagues and contacts in the industry, in that particular industry. So it's not just about placing an ad and getting response. We have great ad response, but we also have in the last probably couple of years, we've had probably about, I would say, an easy 60% of our placements have come through our network. So in many cases, we don't place an ad. We use our network to headhunt or to source someone who would come referred or recommended for that position.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really a process that we go through in a bit of detail. And as I say, it's a concerted effort to make sure that we attack it from different angles and different perspectives, so we get to the right people. Because there are
sorry, Sal, have you ever decided not to work with a business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I said earlier, I've turned down businesses in the last several years, in particular, probably the last 3 years, because of it could be a number of different factors. It could be a reputation that they have. It could be that they're just not willing to adjust their approach. It could be, through discussions that I've had with the business owner or his people, that they just want a body. They just want someone to fill that role. And look, we're not worried about staff turnover. We know they're out there. We can get them. And so there's a whole different bunch of reasons why I would do that. And look, it's from my perspective, it's the only way I'll do business, because I need to know that someone is serious about people. it's something that I'm very passionate about. So if you're only looking for a body, it's not going to work. It's not about that at all. It's about finding a fit for your business and not having to worry about that person not turning up for work the next day or putting their resignation in because they're not getting the training you promised. And that's the other thing that really, is a frustrating point, is when employers lie about or don't give a clear or transparent answer or image about what the role of the company's all about. Candidates walk into a new role and they think, oh my God, it's so stressful in there. There's deadlines left, right, and center, and they never said that. And I didn't realize everyone screams at each other. So I think it's important about being as transparent as if the role's deadline driven and there's a lot of commotion day to day, say that. You're going to attract people that want to work in that kind of environment. It doesn't mean that everyone's suitable for it. So I think that needs to be very much cleared up from the beginning. That way you do attract the best people.
When we hire, we have a thing called the 8 C's, and we just run through and explain to candidates what they mean to us, and we get them to rate themselves. And because you can read CVs, and then I get a good gauge on people when I'm with them.
Yep.
We do the same sort of thing in hiring for the ski patrol. We interview candidates.
Yep.
Lots of people that can ski well. That doesn't mean that they're going to be great with patient care and understanding how to get someone down the hill. So having the technical ability to be able to do that particular role. Tell me, Sal, what are the industries that seem to refer you the best?
Oh, look, it's a combination between, obviously, regular business owners, companies that I'm already doing work for. They obviously talk to, they have like-minded colleagues who own their own businesses and so on. But from that point, I would say it would be business coaches, referral coaches like yourself, people in professional services. Candidates become clients eventually as well, that I've placed, and all of a sudden they're now looking for staff. They've stepped into a management role. But typically I would say business coaches, consultants, leadership coaches, people of that nature who work with different types of businesses, whether they be in engineering and manufacturing and transport operations, financial services, it doesn't really matter. Blue collar, white collar, it's across the board. Yeah.
And on the flip side, is there industries that you find easy to refer as well? Like, could it be CV, people who write CVs for candidates, or?
It definitely. It comes down to. I've always been in a position where, even for example, business coaches. I know a couple of good, really genuine, very organised and very professional business coaches that I always talk about and refer to clients, and always make mention that, look, if you want a real business coach, someone who genuinely knows the figures and has a background training in that area, then for sure. If it's leadership coaches, HR people in particular. HR managers or HR consultants are another great referral source for myself as well, and it works both ways. A lot of clients will have HR issues because they don't have a HR department, and we don't profess to be HR specialists at all. We certainly can give advice where we can, but then at that point, we will refer that matter or that issue to a HR specialist if they don't have one themselves. And I have a few that I've worked with over the years that are very good at that, and that's their interest, that's their passion. So that's where there's that mutual two-way flow of information and referral between HR and business coaches, HR consultants and business coaches, and leadership coaches and so on.
All right. So in wrapping up, is there anything that you think that a business owner should consider when hiring someone?
Yeah, I think. Look, I think it goes down to being proactive with your business, within your business. It's really about looking at your business plan. And I know it gets said a lot. It's one of those areas that gets covered a lot by even business coaches. They talk about the quarterly plans and annual plans and so on. But I think if you're growing your business through people, you need to be proactive. You need to be one step ahead. You can't be reactive. That's how a lot of businesses make mistakes, by hiring people in a reactive mode because they need someone. So plan ahead. Know that if you are growing your business, if business is getting better and better, and you're getting busier from a workflow point of view, then begin to look at what people you need, what particular positions you need in that business to keep things moving along and ticking along in a positive way. So planning is important. I think the fundamentals of understanding what it is your people do, and really understanding, not just saying you do, and being and acting proud because you've got a 4 or 5 member accounts team, but you don't actually know what they do day to day and what impact they have on the rest of the business. Really understanding your business. It's not just about being the CEO or the MD or the GM and saying that this is my business. It's really about that we thing that I said earlier, because it does come down to that. It's a concerted effort. When people start working in your business, the first impression they're going to get is from your other people, or from yourself. So really, it's about living what it is you're talking about and making sure that you present that when they start or when they come in for an interview. And being organised, I think that's key. Being prepped for your own interviews as an employer. Have a list of questions. I mean, I've worked with clients where they're like robots. They have 100 questions they want to ask, and sure, they do it. Others who walk in and they've got 6 or 7. But then there's others that walk in and go, they can't even find the resume on their laptop, or they forgot to print it off, or they've got no questions prepared. They're sort of ad-libbing the interview process. So I think being organised is key, as much as it is for candidates as well when they're going in for interviews at the same time. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that would send the wrong message to a candidate who turns up on time or ahead of time, ready for his interview, and then you're not organised, you're not on time. They're sort of going, I don't know if this is the place I sort of want to work.
A case a month ago where a lady went in for an interview and she was made to wait 20, 25 minutes because the guy was, in another meeting. And she eventually went in, and the meeting was over in 15 minutes because he couldn't find her resume. He asked her if she could come back because he was, he had a bit of a rush day. What message are you sending out? I mean, she didn't go back. What image did you present when she first got there? And it wasn't, it was a high paying position. It was a very high paying role that it was very instrumental in his business. And yet, he sort of treated it like as if it was just, it's just another. It was like a sales call coming to sell him something. He felt that he had the decision part of the process under control, and it was his call. So no, it wasn't. When he rang back to get a time with her again, she said, "No, look, it's okay. I'm not interested. I'm pursuing something else." And that purely went down to the way she was treated when she walked in. He turned up late, and he didn't give it any attention whatsoever, and he was unorganised. So she made her mind up where she was walking past the reception desk.
Do you know, Sal, I've actually been one of those employers, and I just made the reference. I said, we didn't get any good candidates. And now that I hear you say that, I'm sort of going, okay, so what was my involvement in the process? Because my goal is actually to recruit the best people.
Yeah.
All right. And have a productive business. But of course, if you're not showing yourself in that particular light, you're not going to attract the best A-grade players, are you?
That's right. No, it's
no A grade player wants to be playing for the bottom team.
Yeah, that's right.
They want to go for A grade companies. Where I remember the quote Steve Jobs said to one person. He said, "Well, sure, you can go and sell sugar, or you can come and work here and shape people's future." This is and he was really laying out a vision for people.
Yeah.
Or go and sell Pepsi. It doesn't, that's just sugar. Anyone can do that. So,
exactly. Yeah. And a lot of employees think that they've got, their businesses, their products and services sell themselves. So we don't really need to worry about, who we bring on board. It's a job. It's a process. And I guess, like I said before, it's whether it's an accountant or an admin role, or it's a senior BDM or management position. You need to put time and effort into that part of your business, because you want to be able to sleep at night, not worry about your people in the wrong context or the wrong way. I mean, many business owners, their biggest headache, they say, is their people. Whose fault is that? It's not always the staff's fault, is it?
Well, when you start going around and doing your own shopping, even if it's just for food at lunchtime, so it's the person that greets you, or it's the person that serves you, and you have a bad experience, then you're just sort of like going, right, okay, I don't think I'll come back here again. So it's everybody in the organization that has that touches base with the client. Yeah,
absolutely, totally.
All right. Thank you very much for spending some time with us today, Sal. Hopefully, as a business owner, when you watch this, you've got some great tips out of this particular interview. I'm going to place Sal's details below, and I'm just going to end the show with this. I had a client ring me and say, "Hey, listen, Glenn, we want to work with you, but we can't work with you just yet because we're not ready to be able to handling the referrals or leads. And so I made it my goal to sort of going, okay, well, this could be a little micro win for me if I introduce this particular person to someone who's good at what they do, and gets the right team member on board. That means that down the track, they will use my services, right? So I wasn't looking at it like, they got to buy my stuff tomorrow. And I went through and I actually called about 6 or 7 different recruiters. And as it so happens, it was just Sal was the last person that I spoke to. And we had a conversation, and I was still of the mindset, like, oh, well, it's just anybody. But as soon as I spoke to you, you were so different to all the other people that I spoke to, and sort of I actually felt lucky that I actually got to talk to you. So I sort of went, well, that's the feeling. I remember the driveway that I had to pull into just so I could have the call with you. And so I went, right, okay, well, now I've got a much better understanding of why you're different, rather than the 6 other people that I just spoke to, who I could look up on my CRM system, but I wouldn't refer them based on what you were sort of saying. And when I referred you, and you left that particular meeting, the client called me and said, he's the person that can help me. So I knew that I got it right. And that's the difference, I guess. So if you're looking for someone to help you with your people, whether it's from a mentoring perspective, or you're looking to grow, and hopefully you are still looking to grow, business is all coming back from COVID, you'll reach out to Sal and just have a conversation with him and see if you're a good fit for one another. Can promise you he doesn't work with everyone, and you'll know something about your business if he decides to say no. Maybe I could refer you to someone who tells you about culture. But if you don't get the people right, you're going to have a bad culture, and that's a lot harder problem to fix, rather than just doing it right in the first place, bringing on the right people. Yeah,
absolutely. It becomes a long-term problem that just keeps festering and festering. So, 100%.
Yeah, because I mean, how do you fire them? Fire them or shoot them. And one of them is going to get you in jail, and the other one will probably cost you a lot of money, right? If you don't do it right. So,
and by the way, that particular client that you were talking about earlier, that you referred me to, great client. We have a great partnership. We have a great relationship. And I love working with her. She's very, very dedicated to her people. She loves what she does. She's exceptionally specialized in what she does, and she's obviously one of those industry leaders in that space. And it's just that passion that she has for her business, but most importantly for her people. And I think that's what I really enjoy about working with her as well. So I appreciate that introduction, mate. And as I say, it's one of those clients that we hit it off straight away, because she just wanted to keep growing her business and through good people.
Well, I know she's, I got an email from her this morning, so I know she's gearing up to be taking on board the second person. So I better get my act together and make sure that all the leads are sort of coming through with that one. Mate, thanks very much, everybody. All right, then, it is a wrap up from that referral guy signing off with a reminder to make, build, and share connections. I'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks very much, everybody. Bye for now.
Thanks, guys.